Welcome back to this week's episode of the Rock Solid Sports Podcast. Today is Sunday, August 18th, and college football is back, baby.
Let's go, baby. It's the best time of year.
Oh, yeah. Got a lot to talk about. Full college football preview this episode. Breaking down three conferences, couple teams on the way, college football playoff predictions, and a little bit more. So, yeah, tune in. Let's do it.
We gonna make it, baby.
Welcome back to this week's episode, college football preview. We have a lot to talk about, but before, remember that Slove is not just Colorado's next and up-and-coming clothing brand, but a clothing brand who aims to bring a movement globally. When you wear Slove piece, you're not just wearing a piece of clothing, you are elevating your style and representing what love looks like. If you want to help spread love, go check them out on their Instagram at sluv.co, that is sluv.co, or their website at sluv.us, that is sluv.us. All right, boys.
Yeah.
Big week ahead.
Oh, yeah.
Real quick, before we get into that, I guess we should recap what happened at UFC, I believe, 305 last night.
Mm-hmm.
I know Saul's not going to like this because he's not here, but Izzy Adesanya might be done.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we were talking about it last night, too, when we were watching the fights. Like, it's just going to be so long before he can even get another shot at it that it kind of makes you worry about if he's even going to be able to kind of get that done. I know it stinks too, just because he was winning that fight, and I think by a good bit. But I mean, that's what the fighting world is all about. Like, you can be winning an entire fight, and literally in the last 30 seconds of the final round, you can get put into a chokehold you can't get out of, and then that's it.
Yeah, UFC 305 last night. Really weird. I mean, yeah, like you said, Izzy was practically in control the whole time.
Mm-hmm.
DDP catches him slipping one time. Gets him on his back, puts him in a chokehold. I think it was in like the fourth round. Yeah, and it was over from there. There was a graphic on Twitter of Izzy calling DDP over, and it was like, yo, come stand right here. We're about to go down. I think the timestamp was like 3:12, and then at like 3:06, the fight was over. Really weird. It's sad, I guess, for Izzy fans, mostly Saul, but I guess the real African won, according to DDP. So in Perth, Africa, which is crazy. Australia. Was it in Australia last night?
It's in Australia, yeah.
Australia.
Damn, that was totally wrong then. But yeah, it was a good card. I mean, a couple of the undercards were really good. But other than that, I mean, I'm excited for the Sphere coming up.
Me too.
I think that's going to be fun. Not Sean Strickland. Pereira fights in October. So we got a bunch of good UFC fights coming up, and I'm sure we'll talk about that. But today's not about that. Today's about college football.
Damn right.
And it was about college football. What was that? July 19th?
Mm-hmm.
The day that the college football video game came out. But now we get the real thing. And I know everybody in this room and everybody all across America couldn't be more thrilled. So I guess we'll go around. First thing that you're most excited. Obviously, we know just to sit on your couch, watch football. But what's 2025 or 2024, 2025 season? What are we most excited about college football this year?
I mean, we're going to talk about it later, of course. But, the college football playoff, I think seeing that for the first time is going to be really interesting. I think you're going to see a lot of teams that haven't gotten that shot in a couple of years or for most of their team's history finally get that chance to kind of do something and kind of push through the mold and stuff like that, because I think even though you're probably going to have your top dogs, of course, I mean, there's always a road for a team that isn't as good to kind of get in there and kind of do what they need to do and fight. And I think some teams, who are kind of favorites almost might be caught on their back heels, and we could have March Madness type upsets go down. And I think one thing that really piques my interest about it is the home field for the playoff game. I think those are going to be electric. Like, there's a chance that Michigan could have a playoff game in the big house. Mm-hmm. It sounds absolutely electric. But, yeah, I'm excited to see what teams are going to break the mold this year. There's always a couple that don't start ranked or, kind of ranked low and then kind of have a blow-up year and just kind of move all the way up the ranks. And it's always someone new, so I'm excited to see that.
What about you guys?
I agree. I think looking at the first rankings, I think it looks interesting for sure. And then on a more specific level, I'm very interested to see what Colorado does this year. I think it's a very important year for them. I mean, it's
Agreed.
Shador's last year and the other last year. I can't remember his name.
Travis Hunter.
Well, no, not Travis.
Oh, Shador. Or not Shador. Shiloh.
Shiloh, thank you. Yeah, but I think that it's a big year for Colorado, and it's going to be interesting for sure.
From 2014, when they finally got rid of the stupid BCS and switched to a playoff, after that first year, I think most people agreed it needs to expand.
Yeah.
4 teams was great, and I'm glad we got it, but ever since then we needed more, and now we finally have it. So that is by far what I'm most excited about. Another side note, though, because I feel like we're all kind of excited about that as well as most people would be, the conferences. I'm excited to see how that works. Definitely going to miss Pac-12 after dark. Maybe we'll just have Oregon State, Washington State play every week. I am going to miss out, though, on, having that piece to it and, having Oregon playing in the Big Ten. That'll be interesting. Or, like Cal going across the country to play on the Southeast. It's going to be weird at first, hard to get used to.
Seeing teams like USC or UCLA go into like Notre Dame and experiencing snow.
Doesn't make a lot of sense, but if it comes with a 12-team playoff, I'm fine with it.
Yeah. Conference realignment. It's going to be crazy. What I'm most excited for, per usual, College Game Day. Yeah. It's back, mostly just because Pat McAfee is coming back for another year. Yep. I think he signed a 2-year deal. I'm not quite sure about that, but Pat McAfee's back. No offense, but I'm kind of glad Lee Corso's done. As much as a Hall of Famer he was.
Is it confirmed now that he's?
Yeah, I think he's retired because I think they did his last episode last year. So
that is so sad.
It is sad, but it's a new time. I think with the conference realignment, the 12-team playoffs, it's time for a new era.
Especially when he's in that era with Pat, who's so energetic, and then you bounce it back to Lee, who can't form a sentence.
Yeah.
It's just kind of tough.
It's a new age, and it was kind of cool. We got 1 year of them being able to mold the last age to this age, and I think it's a new time. So cannot wait for that first College Game Day. I don't know if they're doing it for week 0 this upcoming week, but they are. Yeah. And then in week 1 for sure, I know they're going over to Dublin, Ireland. So very excited for that. But let's get right into it. We're going to go just by conference right now, break down a couple teams per conference. We're going to start in the Big 12. New faces in the Big 12. So 5 ranked teams this year in the preseason ranking. Number 21, University of Arizona. Number 22, Kansas University. Number 18, Kansas State University. Number 17, Oklahoma State. And number 12, Utah. Ugh. And of course BYU. Where were they ranked? They snubbed?
Dude, we suck. I think we're projected at 4.5 wins, so we'll talk about that in a second.
Yeah. So I mean, big year for the Big 12. New faces. CU's in there now. What I'm most excited about, not gonna lie to you, I think this might be the year of Kansas University. Jalen Daniels coming back for another year. They kind of had the 2-quarterback system last year with Jason Bean. Yeah. And I don't know, it was a weird dynamic. Running back, I believe his name is Devin Neal. He's a stud. Kansas football hasn't been this good since I believe 2015, 2014, especially in the preseason. Lawrence, Kansas is such a good place for sports. We see it in basketball all the time. They have a good baseball team. Now, if Kansas University gets a football program that they can really rally behind, like I think they can this year, I'm not saying they might be in the college football playoff, but I think they're kind of going to put a reckon in the Big 12.
No, yeah, I agree. I think that Kansas, we've kind of watched them evolve over these past few years. Like, I'd say about probably 3-4 years ago, you started to see kind of the flames starting. They were still not great. They were only winning probably 4 games or something like that. But as the years have gone on, they've turned those 4 wins into 6 wins and 6 wins into 7 wins, and they've kind of just been going up. And I think it's a very huge brand, Kansas, even though it is for basketball mainly, that's a school that can be a powerhouse, and they've upgraded their stadium. They have a really nice stadium.
It's a beautiful campus.
Yeah, beautiful campus. It's awesome, and the name brand of Kansas is great, and I think that we could see this school kind of transition out of just being a basketball school and just being a sports school, and I think it's pretty cool to see Kansas being good and being in it.
The 2 notes on that. One, if you've ever been to the University of Kansas, first of all, if you haven't, please go. It is an amazing experience. You would never believe that it's in the middle of Kansas. Literally, it's Lawrence, Kansas. It's a whole new. You would think it's in. I don't even know. Like it's you can't even think of it. You wouldn't think it's in the Midwest. It is such a beautiful place. The people are lovely, great hospitality. And my other note was, I think the Big 12 was just wide open this year with Texas and Oklahoma both leaving.
100%.
So, what do you guys? Any thoughts on the Big 12? I know Colorado's in here, BYU. I know you guys might have some thoughts.
I think my thought is exactly what you said in the last part. I think it's wide open. It's going to be fun to watch for sure.
Some new teams. Arizona State is in there. Arizona's now in there. Cincinnati, I believe, joined last year, so they're still in there. UCF, I think this might be their first year.
Yeah, I think it is.
And then, like we said, CU, a lot of new faces. But you still have the brand. The West Virginias, the Texas Techs, Oklahoma States, Kansas States. The Big 12 is always exciting for football, I feel like, and even in the last couple of years, there's been a couple. They came down to the last couple weeks where there was 3 teams on the cusp. And with Texas and Oklahoma being at the very top, there was 3 teams on the cusp of either getting that last spot or I think Kansas State won the Big 12 2 years ago, and ended up being in the college football playoff. So wide open. I love this conference. First of all, nothing but competition. I honestly think it might be lower level competition. Obviously, you get to
TCU.
I
think that's what you meant. Being in the college football playoff.
I was about to say. I was thinking.
It wasn't Kansas State.
When they had Deuce Vaughn, I think they won the Big 12.
I think they did.
They
too.
never made the college football playoff though. TCU did.
TCU did.
Kansas State wasn't.
And we all know how that worked out.
Yeah, they got shit beat up by Michigan. Whatever year Deuce Vaughn was there.
Georgia.
They beat Michigan.
Oh yeah, they beat Michigan. Yeah, that was a high scoring game. I forgot about that. Yeah, Georgia beat we'll talk about that later too. But yeah, so I think Kansas State that year that Deuce Vaughn was there. I think they did win the Big 12. But you're right, TCU. That was the year. What was that? Max Duggan? Is that his name?
Max Duggan.
Yeah.
Quinn Johnson. Yeah. That was a fun playoff that year, honestly, besides obviously the national championship.
It was great for me.
Yeah, and Hunter. Yeah. So but yeah, thoughts on, I guess I'll let you talk because you said you were most excited to see CU. Let's talk about that real quick. I know you said it's a big year.
Yep.
Deion's second year in Colorado. What's the expectations? Do you think they're going to live up to him?
I don't know. I'm nervous for them. I'm not gonna lie. They're projected at 6-7 wins. I don't know exactly what the line is, somewhere around there. But like you said, Deion's second year, Shador's and Travis Hunter's last year. I mean, I don't think Travis Hunter's under that much scrutiny. He plays fine, but Shador is gonna have a big year if he wants to get drafted well. I honestly, I don't know if they're gonna. I think 6 wins might be good. I think that they'll improve from last year a little bit, but I don't see them doing anything crazy this year.
Yeah, I mean, here's the thing I always think about when I think about CU is, I love Deion and I love how he runs his mouth. I love how he's all in the news, stuff like that. I love that. But when you act like that and talk like that, you take what I think should reasonably be a 4-year kind of rebuild for CU. You shrink that into a 2 or 3 year window
exactly
to get your team into competitive fashion, because you kind of hype them up so much that it's personally, if I were a CU fan and Deion wasn't my coach and we went from winning 1 game the year before to 4 games and then we won 6 this year, I would feel pretty confident about it. But Deion has put this team in such a position to where anything below average is going to get them run through it. Just no one's going to be okay with that.
Yeah.
And I think he's kind of set that bar extremely high to where I think the only way that people don't look at this sideways is if they finish probably inside the top 20 and finish with around over 8 wins.
Yeah,
which I don't think is going to happen.
Yes, I do not see that happening, honestly.
Unless Shador has a turnaround great year and that offensive line is completely rebuilt and they are able to work that way. Unless they're able to do that, I don't see a way they win more than 6-7 games.
Yeah. Freshman tackle Jordan Seaton, I think the biggest recruit they got this offseason. He's going to be huge for them. Yeah. I've seen a couple clips of him in their last, they had their open practice up in Denver the other day, but he looks great. He was the most coveted tackle in I think all the country, and he was supposed to go, I think he was recruited by Ohio State, Alabama, all of them. Chose CU, so a lot of confidence from him. There's a couple things. One, I think we can all agree. So a bowl game is the bar, I guess, or the floor. You're hoping for a bowl game, 6 wins, but you're going to the Big 12.
Yeah.
Obviously, there's some Pac-12 teams that get mixed in there. Utah being the powerhouse that they are. It's a harder conference just in general. Even with Texas and Oklahoma losing, you're going to a Pac-12. Either you don't get to play against Oregon, USC, you luck out on that end, especially how we watched them against
Yeah.
Oregon last year and USC. But it's 6 games. Like if they can win 6 games, I feel like that's a good start for Deion, because you have to factor in that they're going to the Big 12.
Yeah.
They're in the Pac-12 and they didn't get like 7 or 8. I could see that, but I feel like if not finishing the top 25, I don't think that's too crazy.
No, yeah, I mean, I'm looking at their schedule right now, and I think it's going to be imperative that they start the season out really well, because like to end the season, they'd go Kansas State, Arizona, Cincinnati, Texas Tech, Utah, Kansas, and Oklahoma State, which is
tough.
a gauntlet of the Big 12.
Tough.
5 out of 7 teams ranked right now.
Yeah, so it's like I think if they can go ahead and North Dakota State, Nebraska, Colorado State, Baylor, and UCF, if they can start out with winning at least,
I'd say 4-1 is the
4-1.
minimum.
Yeah,
they
have
need to
go
probably
4-1.
do that, because I don't see them winning too many when they get past this point. Like I could see them beating like Arizona. I could see them beating Texas Tech maybe.
The beginning.
Yeah, like
Once you get into the end of that 5-game stretch, them boys are going to be tired and hurting.
you need to put yourself into a position to where when you get to that stretch of your schedule, you can afford to lose most of them and walk away with like 2-3 wins.
Yep, 100%.
It's at home against Kansas State. Not a bad. I mean, we saw what they did against TCU at TCU to open up the season last year. I feel like that's kind of one of the same games. Ironically, on October 12th, we'll talk about that. At Arizona, I think that's a little tougher than you're anticipating. Arizona's not really a walkover anymore. At home against Cincinnati, they should win that. At Texas Tech, they should win that too in Lubbock. Texas Tech is not very great. And then, to cap off the year with Utah, Kansas, and Oklahoma State. The only one on the road is Kansas. They're not beating Utah at home. I couldn't see that happening. Yeah, they better at least start off 4-1, and then you at least have to squeak out, I think, like 4 out of those next like 7, which is tough. I mean, that's 8 wins, not too bad. I mean, that leaves room for maybe getting to the Big 12 championship, if things go right in that conference. But I don't see that projecting into a college football playoff team.
No.
Even a top 25 team, honestly, unless those big wins come against ranked teams at the end of the year.
And I mean, with the change to conferences and stuff like that, it's no longer like split into divisions. So you have to be the second best team in your conference to make it to that game,
Which is going to be tough.
which is going to be extremely difficult.
Honestly, 6 wins for CU if Deion Sanders isn't the coach they're in a great 2-year stretch. He added 3 wins last year, add 2 wins this year. If he continues to do that, they'll be in the college football playoffs in the next 2 years.
Yep.
Like I said, if it wasn't Deion and for what he's doing and saying.
I was going to say, I think the only other like funny news really going around CU is they're the talk of college football, which they were last year at this time as well, and maybe the first couple of weeks. But ironically, as good as the Georgia Bulldogs are, as good as Texas, as good as all this stuff going around with Michigan and their coaching stuff, Saban leaving in Alabama, the talk right now in college football is the Colorado Buffaloes, and that is the most ironic thing to me. It just doesn't make sense.
It's everyone's Super Bowl.
Yeah, and I don't know. I don't think it's too far-fetched to say that a 6-win team is a success for them.
I call it success.
I would too. Like to go from one game win to
10,
6 wins in 2 years is incredible.
Yeah,
it is. And like you said, having Deion, it doesn't help with that target on your back.
No,
but I mean that's what comes with it. So, all right. I guess you kind of said they suck, but if you'd like to quickly talk on BYU, the other team.
We'll keep it short and sweet. The holy team of Utah, the righteous men. We want them at least. I'm just hoping for 5 wins, and we could lose every game. If we beat Utah somehow, I'll be satisfied. But that's about all I have to say about us.
Projected 4.8 wins. So,
that's not
do
terrible.
we have any predictions on who we think is going to win the Big 12?
Don't make me say it. I'm saying Kansas out of spite. Kansas.
I think Ollie Gordon's going to take that Oklahoma State team to pretty high heights. I think
It's a prison.
I think Oklahoma State is going to take it this year.
My boss would be very happy with you. Caden, your pick.
I'm stuck between Kansas or Arizona. I think it's going to be between
Arizona.
Yeah, I think they're going to sneak away with it. I don't know why I'm liking Arizona this year.
You've been playing too much college football, haven't you?
I just got a bag.
Arizona is dangerous.
They are.
They were nice last year, and they're still kind of under the radar, I feel like.
Yeah, not like a huge target on their back. Might slide under a few coaching staff's eyes. Maybe they're looking forward to a week and just skipping right past them. I don't know.
And who knows? Maybe maybe BYU pulls it out.
Yep. Hey, you can always hope.
So what do we got? We got KU, Arizona. We'll go Arizona for the sake.
Yeah, I'll go Arizona.
You said Oklahoma State.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, well, I think you would have said Utah if it
understand.
didn't implicate, what it's implicating. But I'm gonna agree with you. I talked a big game on KU. Jalen Daniels is nice. I think his name is Devin Neal, the running back. I know his last name is Neal. I hope that's right. He's a dog. I promise you, he's a dog. Their wide receivers have gotten so much better. I know they just got a transfer. I'm picking the Kansas Jayhawks. Maybe for the first time. I don't know the last time if they've ever won a Big 12 conference or whatever conference they may have been 30 years ago. I don't think they've ever won. This is the year.
Yep.
Kansas Jayhawks. Lawrence, Kansas will be ecstatic. They deserve it. It's a great town. I mean, this would be the perfect Kansas basketball last couple of years been struggling.
Yeah.
Get to the tournament, they have all these injuries. Kansas football can just they can change all that luck, change the course, and start a new era there. And I think it'd be perfect, especially now with the conference realigning. Like we said, I think it's a time for new beginnings. KU football doing it, perfect timing. So, any last thoughts on the Big 12 before we move on?
I think there's a lot of sleeper guys who could kind of have a really good season. I think it could be, on one hand, I think it could be exactly what we think, and it's going to be, the teams that we've said who are kind of like favorites probably. I don't know what the odds are on anything is, but could be the favorites there, as well as it could be all those teams that are ranked. Half of them could not be ranked at the end of the year. Colorado could be up there, and ASU could have a great year. You never know.
Yeah.
That's why we play the game. So I don't know. I think it's just going to be fun to watch.
Real quick, and we picked our winners. Who would you want to see them play in the Big 12 championship? If you picked Kansas, who would you want to see them play in the Big 12 championship?
Realistically or anything?
Just any matchup.
Well, BYU, obviously. But realistically, I think it's unrealistic for me to hope Utah doesn't even make it there. I assume they'll be there, and then whoever they're playing, I just hope that they lose just horribly, just by many, many, many touchdowns, and just get beat down to nothingness.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. What about you?
Since I said it's between Kansas and Arizona, then I'll give that as my Big 12 championship.
Yeah, I mean, I think Oklahoma State, and I got to say Utah. I mean, I think they're one of those teams that are just slightly better than most teams. Sorry.
No,
but,
they are.
Yeah. But no, I think they are just that slightly bit on a higher tier than a lot of Big 12 teams, which I think will allow them to have such a good year, and that's what's going to lead them to play Oklahoma State.
Give me KU, Colorado.
Wow.
Boulder meets Lawrence. We meet at the state border and play in a field just like Blue Mountain State.
Field of Dreams.
Yeah, Field of Dreams. Let's do it that way. No, that'd be exciting. I mean, Dion for the first time, going up, or I guess second year, but first time in the Big 12, somehow, escaping all odds and going to the Big 12 championship game against KU. I'd still pick KU at this very moment. Who knows down the line? But I think that'd be a very exciting matchup. A lot of star power, a lot of storylines, and yeah, we're state borders, so I think it'd be fun.
Before we move on from the Big 12, I do want to say one final thing. I think a lot of people kind of say now, it's just the Big 10 and the SEC. I don't know that I'm ready to say that. Yeah, I think the Big 12 is still dangerous.
Agreed.
And you have a lot of those Kansas, Oklahoma State teams that you end up with them in the playoff as a higher seed. Those will be the type of teams that I could see knocking off one of those powerhouses if they're not prepared for them.
Yeah,
totally agree. All right, next conference. Speaking of them, the Big 10.
Yep.
The Big 10 has 6 ranked teams this year. First being the 25, Iowa Hawkeyes. I don't fucking know how they're ranked. The 23, USC Trojans. 8, Penn State. 9, Michigan. 2, Ohio State. And 3, Oregon. A lot of star power in this conference. I feel like it's a little top-heavy. We'll talk about that. There's some exciting teams in here, though, just joining the Big 10. USC, we mentioned. UCLA, I believe. I was just looking at the name. Washington just joined. So, I mean, a lot of new faces. Oregon
is crazy to me.
A lot of star power. I feel like this conference may be a little top-heavy, though. I mean, you're looking at the top right now. Oregon, Ohio State, Penn State, Michigan. Mm-hmm. Those teams, I feel, are very way up above all these teams I'm looking at on my screen right now. Iowa, I don't even know how they're ranked. After what I watched last year, great coaching staff.
Best defense you've ever seen in your life.
Could not score one fucking point.
No.
Not one. It was the hardest football to ever watch. They had, I think, more punts than touchdowns.
It's honestly impressive.
Yeah, like it's terrible. And then USC, I mean, they're losing Caleb Williams, who kind of knows what's going to go on there.
Yeah. We'll find out how good of a coach Lincoln Riley is.
I can tell you right now, not good. So this is going to be a shit show.
So I guess what we will do first, I guess we'll go kind of reverse of what we just did. Let's pick the Big Ten championship. We'll pick the winners at the end, but just for right now, pick the Big Ten championship. I feel like the cop-out answer is Oregon-Ohio State. We might all agree on that, honestly, and I don't really see anything wrong with agreeing on that, but what would your Big Ten Conference championship be?
So I have kind of like a split one. I think Oregon's going to make it. I really don't think there's any question there. I think they're a way better team than 90% of the teams in here. And then, yeah, like you said, Ohio State seems like the right answer. But, I mean, me and you have been talking about this for a long time. The Nittany Lions are going to break through at some point.
At some point.
They are going to get it done and go to the championship. Do I think they would beat an Oregon team going to it? No. But
very passionate.
Yeah, I know this chair is really falling to pieces on me. But yeah, anyway, so like I said, we've been talking about forever. I think the Nittany Lions are gonna get it done this year because realistically, when you look at their schedule,
I'm looking at it right now. They could easily do it.
And do they play Oregon?
No.
All they have to do is beat Michigan or Ohio State.
They don't play Michigan either.
They only play Ohio State.
Only play Ohio State.
I think they could do it. Yeah. Like I think. For years, the only reason that Penn State has not been involved in things is because they couldn't beat Michigan and Ohio State. And they're only playing one of them. So I think there's a very solid chance that they could only lose one game. And I'm going to say it right now, too. I don't think Ohio State's going to be as good as everyone says they're going to be.
I disagree with that one.
I'm not saying they're going to be ass. I'm talking in, perspective of what everyone's expecting of them. I'm not saying they're not going to win 11 games. Like, they probably will. But I think when comparing them to like an Oregon team or like Georgia or some other teams that are kind of on like top dog status right now, I don't think they're as good as them. I think there's a lot of hype behind them, which it's justified, but I don't think they're going to be as good as everyone thinks they're going to be. But like I said, that's 11-1, not as good as everyone thinks they're going to be. So I don't know. I think Penn State's going to be in that championship.
I'm looking at Penn State's schedule right now. Should probably easily start the season off 5-0 at West Virginia versus Bowling Green and versus Kent State.
Yeah,
it's two teams from Ohio. They shouldn't even exist. Let's send them to overseas anywhere. Illinois, UCLA, both at home. 4 games at home to start off the year. 4 out of 5. Only one is at West Virginia. 5-0 should be realistically, especially with UCLA coming into Penn State. USC, Wisconsin, Ohio State. That's probably going to be the hardest stretch they get.
I think. By the time they play USC, though, I do not think they're going to be as big of a problem as what seeming though right now.
At Penn State, USC at that point. Yes, I maybe could agree with that. At Wisconsin's a tough team to play especially in Wisconsin. Yeah. And then it's at home against Ohio State, going to be the toughest game of the year. And then the whiteout games next week at home against Washington. You wrap up the year with Purdue, Minnesota, and Maryland.
3-0 at the end.
It should be 3-0. Like realistically, they can lose one game. And we talked about Penn State last year. I picked them to actually win the Big Ten last year, knowing that Kyle McCord, I think that was the quarterback for Ohio State, he kind of sucked. Yeah. Michigan, I never had faith in them. I was proven wrong. And they're cheaters anyway, so God is always watching, and the football gods are.
Facts.
Yep. Jim Harbaugh, watch out. No, I'm just kidding. But realistically, they could lose one game, and that would be to Ohio State, which would probably have the same record, and then they'd meet them again in the conference championship.
Yeah.
Do you guys have any disagreement to this? Do you guys think maybe it is Ohio State, Oregon, and we're just like overlooking it and overthinking it?
He said exactly what I was going to say. I don't think Ohio State's going to be as good as everyone thinks. In the same way, the 11-1 way. Like, they're going to be Ohio State. Then don't get that wrong. But I think they're being overlooked. I think it's going to be Oregon, Penn State. I think Penn State. This is Penn State's year as well.
Not to beat a dead horse, but I think, it comes down to Ohio State, Penn State. Whoever wins that game is playing Oregon. And other than those three, I like Washington's colors. But there's nothing else in that conference going on.
I mean, I'm looking at Ohio State's schedule right now.
It's not the easiest.
It's not easy. And here's the thing. I think they play, in the last few weeks, they play Oregon and Penn State and Michigan. there's a chance, there is a reality where they walk out of that 1-2.
Yeah.
There's a very real reality that happens, and I don't think
It's at Penn State too.
and it's at Penn State.
Yeah.
Like I'm telling you, there's a real possibility that they walk out of that 1-2, and they are a 10-2 team to finish out the year. They're not going to struggle against Michigan. The only thing Michigan's going to have is that it's a rivalry game, but they're going to be at Ohio State. Michigan's not going to be the team they were last year.
Yeah.
And I don't know, but I can seriously see them going 1-2 in that little stretch there.
Yeah, I want to reiterate that because I don't think we've mentioned it yet. Michigan will not be
No.
a
No.
top 10 team. I
was
don't know
just
why
about to
they
say.
are right now. I mean, I get it. They won last year, whatever, but
They've lost
Give it a
every
couple-
They've lost
yeah.
every player
Yeah.
pretty much that
They're
made
not.
them who they were.
And the coach.
And coach.
Yeah.
And
They
it's
made
not
them.
going to just flip, and they're going to be like, all right. Like, I think they'll finish in the top 25. They'll probably lose 3-4 games.
I agree.
Yeah.
And then they'll kind of just be meandering through. Maybe there's a slight chance that they kind of do half decent in
Yeah.
their schedule and are able to crack into the playoffs. I don't think they would make it past round 1 unless they were playing at home.
Yeah.
But
I think it's back to regular Michigan football. Regular scheduled Michigan football.
Non-cheating Michigan football, or
I mean, I don't know about all that. I can't say what they're doing, but 3-4 losses and they'll just be good.
real quick, my last note on Ohio State before we just brush past that. Will Howard is now there as their quarterback. I think we have to remember that. Also, Caleb Downs, Alabama transfer, was picking between Georgia and Ohio State. Caleb Downs, one of the best corners in the country,
Mhm.
best defensive backs, did join the Ohio State Buckeyes. Trayvon Henderson, great running back. They just got this wide receiver. I believe he's a freshman. I was literally talking about him last night. Why can't I
Sean
remember?
Judkins.
No, that's not his name. I'll see if I can find it real quick. But if not, I mean, who cares? They have like 30 of them on their roster. Jeez, how many do they have? But yeah, they just got a freshman wide receiver into Ohio State as well. Jeremiah Smith, that's his name. Watch out for him. He is a dog. I think Ohio State, as of right now, is still the clear-cut favorite in the Big Ten
Over Oregon?
over Oregon. As of right now, because I wasn't a huge fan of Dylan Gabriel. That's his name, right?
Mm-hmm.
Sorry, OU. I can't even remember him. Dylan Gabriel transferred from OU, lefty quarterback. He never really moved the needle for me. He had that one game-winning drive against Texas. Yeah. That's the whole reason he got to transfer to Oregon. That's why I just want everybody to remember
So I
that.
have a question then.
Dan Lanning is a very good coach, though, and Ryan Day does leave some question marks for me.
With Dylan Gabriel, is it more of that, like, I don't like him because he's a Sooner? Because I totally understand that. Or is it, like, based on his performance, you don't think he's that good?
He didn't move the needle every week I watched him, really, except for that one drive he had against Texas. And I feel like that was a huge reason on why he was looked at and so highly coveted. Obviously, he had a great year. The quarterback or the coaches had to see good film, good stats for them to even recruit him. So obviously, what does my opinion matter? But in the games I watched, he didn't really impress me. Will Howard last year, there was a couple games he got in, he impressed me. Obviously, there was some bias in that Texas-Oklahoma rivalry, and I'll admit that. But I just think the additions that Ohio State got were bigger than the losses that Oregon had, I guess.
Okay.
Because I don't think Ohio State really lost much besides Marvin Harrison Jr., which is a huge thing to lose.
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong, but when you're bringing in, he's a wide receiver at the
You
end
still
of the
got
day.
Ibuka too. Like,
Yeah, like I think Ohio State gained more than Oregon lost,
Yeah.
and I think the only thing that scares me is I think Ryan Day is an iffy coach. I think Dan Lanning's a great coach.
I think Dan Lanning's one of the best coaches.
Yes, and that
Yeah.
really scares me. He was up for the Alabama job, so and he said he wasn't
Mhm.
leaving, which, damn, he should have taken that. But so yeah, and then like Washington, the guy at Washington, Dable, what was his name?
Kalen DeBoer.
Yeah, DeBoer. He ended up going to Alabama, so I can't see Washington doing anything crazy.
No.
I do agree with the Michigan take. I think it's back to normal. I
Mhm.
think there's a three-headed monster at the top, and I think it's Penn State, I think it's Ohio State, and I think it's Oregon. And
Which is funny because that's what it's been. Ohio
Yes.
State, Michigan, Penn State.
yeah,
And so now it's like, is Penn State going to always be that the third little brother, or are they
Yeah.
going to finally overcome one of the older brothers?
Mm-hmm.
and other than that, I think this conference stinks. I
Yeah.
think Iowa
Yeah.
sucks. I think Illinois sucks. I think Indiana sucks. I think Maryland sucks. I think Michigan State sucks. I don't even have to keep going on.
No, yeah.
Why is Northwestern even in here?
Yeah.
No offense. Why is Wisconsin? No, Wisconsin's a staple in this. But Purdue, walkover game. Rutgers, like the fact that Rutgers is going to be playing UCLA or like USC, it's just so, that just blows my mind.
Can't wait to watch that game.
Dude, it's going to be the weirdest game ever. I don't even know if they even play each other this year. But when they do, it's going to be crazy. But
and just to shift back to something I was said earlier about it not being just the SEC and Big Ten, while I do understand the sentiment of it, it's not true. I don't personally believe so, because I think when the 12-team playoffs runs around, the top 4 are going to be from their conferences, and then I think at least 75% of the field, 80% of the field is going to be SEC and Big Ten teams.
You really think that? I think some Big 12
Over Big 12 teams?
I mean, there's going to be a couple Big 12 teams in there, but I mean, like,
Majority.
Top to bottom, Big 12 or Big 10? I got Big 12.
I mean, top to bottom, yeah, but in terms of like
Big 12,
how you like the good teams in there,
the top 3 teams in the
It's
Big 10
gotta
would
be
beat
Big
every
Ten.
team in the Big
okay.
12. But
I agree with that. Then.
no, yeah.
I think the depth of the Big 12 is quite better this year.
I'm not saying that there's not great teams in the Big 12. I'm just saying in terms of like the guys that when it comes time to play
The buys.
in January,
Mm-hmm.
those are the guys that are going to be hard to beat. Is going to be Big 10 SEC teams.
Yeah.
Honestly, I'd say that like Big 10 more than SEC a little bit. Right?
I could agree with you on I think the buys will be filled out with Big 10 and SEC teams, but I think there's going to, other than that, I think there's going to be more Big 12 teams than Big 10
Really?
and the rest of the field. I could see that happening, like just as of right now.
Mhm.
Do I think there's going to be more SEC teams than both of them? 100%. But I think the Big 12 will have more teams than the Big 10 in the college football playoff.
Mhm.
They won't be the better ones, I'll tell you that.
Right.
Yeah.
But they will. I think they'll have like 2 or 3, and I think the Big 10 there's a possibility they might only have 2.
Yeah.
So I could really see that happening. That does count for. I think Utah will be in it. Like I think we can probably confidently say that.
But I mean, Ohio State, Oregon, and Penn State should also be in it.
Yes, those are. I think it's just top heavy, honestly.
Yeah,
but
true.
yeah. All right. Any last notes on the Big 10 besides that Michigan sucks?
No, this is exactly what I was going to say.
Okay.
So-
Cool. I read your mind, man.
Yeah, you did.
All right, moving on to the biggest powerhouse in all of college football and pretty much the whole football world. Even if you go to the NFL, go to AFC, NFC, go pick a division. Most of their players come from this conference. So the SEC, 9 ranked teams this year, including the number 1 Georgia Bulldogs, the number 4 Texas Longhorns, number 6 Ole Miss, number 5 Alabama, number 15 Tennessee, number 16 Oklahoma. Boo. Number 13, LSU. Number 20, Texas A&M. How? And number 11, I think I already said Mizzou, but if I didn't, number 11, Mizzou. And this whole conference is just filled out.
Mm-hmm.
There's only like 1 bad team in here, maybe 2. It's Vanderbilt.
Yeah.
Yeah. And honestly, maybe like Arkansas. Other than that, this conference is loaded.
Yeah.
Top to bottom. I would be scared going up against any of these teams in any college football playoff game.
Yeah.
I guess where we want to start is the same we did last time. I think it worked out very well. Conference championship. Okay, well, that's not going to go well. We're both. I think we have the obvious answers here. Why? Tell me why you think the conference championship is going to be Georgia and Texas.
Yeah. I mean, if they're.
Or tell me why not.
Just clear cut. I think they're the 2 best teams. I think a lot of it is on paper, but I mean, there's a serious chance that, like, I don't know. There's a chance that the matchup in the SEC championship could be with like 2, 3 lost teams.
Yeah.
Like, I think it's very possible that the SEC might be fighting for playoff spots because they keep beating each other. And I don't know how that will move the needle a little bit because they're all going to be well ranked. But, like, I could see Georgia losing to Texas. I could see Ole Miss beating Alabama, like Alabama beating whoever.
Yeah.
Like, I could see it going back and forth like that. And literally the conference championship being 9-3 Georgia versus 9-3 Texas.
Yeah.
Like, it wouldn't shock me because of how good the SEC is from top to bottom. Literally the only walkover team is Vanderbilt. Even Arkansas will give you at least a little bit of a run. And then, you got even the lower tier teams like Mississippi State and Kentucky are sneaky teams that can give you a run whenever.
Couple wins.
Yeah, you never know. So I think this might be one of the only conferences where the championship or the conference championship could be held between 2 teams who have a couple losses.
Any thoughts on that?
I totally agree.
Yeah.
I think top to bottom is easily the most dominant conference
By far.
I'd say I want to say I have a sleeper pick
Mm-hmm.
to win the SEC championship. Obviously, I think it'll be between Georgia and Texas, but Ole Miss with Lane Kiffin, dude,
I called it.
they're nice.
They're nice. I think Ole Miss is going to have probably the best year they've had under Lane
I
Kiffin.
mean, yeah, Ole Piss. It just they do the same thing every year, man. They show you glimpses of what they can be, and then they don't.
Don't let Pat Bev fool y'all, man. Don't let him
But I
fool
mean,
you.
yeah, no, I do agree. I think Lane Kiffin's one of the best coaches in football. And I think they have had like teams' numbers for a while, like Bama, even though they haven't been able to really beat them. They've had Alabama's number for a while, and they've always given them good games. And now that Nick Saban's not there and that team's completely different, they're probably going to beat them.
Lane Kiffin's getting the boogeyman off his shoulder.
Literally, bro.
Okay, real quick. Let's break this down by. I want to go over Georgia's schedule real quick as well, because this is your guys' team right here.
Mm-hmm.
Realistically, let's start off versus Clemson versus number 14 Clemson at home.
I think they're going to get the dub there. I don't think Clemson is going to be all that. I think they're going to be a solid team who's going to be able to make a push for the playoffs at the end of the year, but they're not.
An ACC. We're not even going to cover the ACC.
No, yeah, I just don't think they're good enough to really think
Florida State.
Well,
The only thing to mention.
yeah, that's the whole
That's
ACC
it.
preview
Yeah.
right there. Florida State. All right, at home versus Tennessee Tech. Win.
Loss. I don't see us winning that one.
At Kentucky.
Win.
Week 3. At number 5 Alabama.
I think we are going to show. I think that is going to be the first display where Alabama realizes they're no longer in the Saban era.
Nick Saban's
and
gone.
I think Kirby Smart is just simply going to outcoach Kalen DeBoer.
Yeah.
I
And
was
I
gonna
think he's
say,
going to beat him.
I think that's the game where we find out who Alabama is.
Yeah.
I can't wait. I hope you just.
I just think I don't know. I just think at the end of the day, it's going to come down. I'm not saying we're going to smack them. I
hope
just think
you
it's
do.
going to after the game's done, you're going to say that's a coach who's been coaching in the SEC for 5-6 years since he started coaching and worked under Saban, and a guy who just came from the Pac-12. You're going to see the difference. I think,
Also
in
did
coaching.
work under Saban at one point.
Yeah.
Never forget.
So I think that's the game where you're going to realize that the Saban era is over, and that Georgia is kind of taking over that, and Kirby's kind of taking that spot. And
'Cause who does Bama have before Georgia? Anybody?
Their schedule.
Yeah.
They
Because
have
that's one thing I'm very curious about is what is Alabama going to look
Nobody.
like? And if they're not even
Yeah.
tested.
Western Kentucky, South Florida, Wisconsin, Georgia.
So yeah, until that Georgia game, I
Yeah.
don't think we'll know who Bama is.
And then they get
after that
Vanderbilt.
game, we'll know who Bama is.
Yeah.
And I think we'll also know who Jalen Milroe is very quickly.
Mhm.
Especially when he has to go against that defense. But okay, real quick, Auburn win.
I think it's a win.
Mississippi State.
That's a win.
I'm sorry.
It's a dominating win.
At Texas, I think this is where it really starts to heat up.
That's a fun one.
That
That game
game
can go either way.
that could be the game of the year. We're thinking it right now. That could be the game of the year when we look back on it.
Yep.
It could be
Yeah.
either very high scoring or just, I don't know, just like stops
I
everywhere.
mean, I think like what we've had for the past few years in the SEC, where it was Georgia and Alabama, I could easily see being swapped with Georgia and Texas.
Steve Sarkisian, also from under Alabama's coach.
Because I said this when I first heard that Texas was coming over. I said Oklahoma's going to struggle to get their feet underneath them in the SEC, and I think eventually they'll be okay.
Yeah.
Texas coming in, they're going to be ready to go immediately. They
Especially
are,
after last season.
yeah, they are a powerhouse team. They
They're
kind of
hungry.
always have been.
Hungry.
They haven't been able to push through that final barrier. I think being in the SEC, getting SEC talent recruits, they're going to be that new Georgia, Alabama back and forth for years to come, I think,
okay.
with obviously the random throwing.
And even though they didn't win last year, I want to give credit and say that since, Colt McCoy, I think last year was the first year you did push through the barrier. You may not have won at the end, but you established yourself as a team that you're perfectly capable of doing it now.
Last year was a huge year for
We should have
Texas,
beat
for
Washington.
sure.
I was so upset.
I think you go on to beat Michigan.
I do too. But we can't think about the past.
Nope.
All right, real quick. Georgia, this 4-week stretch. Give me the floor. Give me the ceiling. At Texas, at home versus Florida, rivalry game. At Ole Miss versus Tennessee at home. Those 4 games. Give me the floor and the ceiling.
All right, so I think the ceiling is obviously 4-0.
4-0. I could agree with that.
I think that the floor is, you got to look at it as a fan of Georgia and what you need them to do. The floor has to be 3-1.
You're not going to like what I say.
I mean, no, I was on the fence with a lot of these teams. I think Florida, we're going to beat the shit out of Florida.
Is it in Knoxville?
Yeah. Yes.
No, it's at home.
It's in Tennessee.
So I'd say floor 2-2.
That's what I.
But
that's what I was
if
gonna
it's
say.
if it's in Knoxville, it's squeaking to a 1-3.
I was gonna say if
But
that,
I
one
say
of those
2-2.
one of those Florida or Tennessee games gets switched and one of them's not at home, I could see that floor being.
Well,
1-3.
Florida's played.
I don't think Florida's
played in
yeah.
Orlando. It's neutral
Oh,
site.
it is.
And don't think
No, they're not
the only
good,
team
but-
I was gonna maybe be like, oh, maybe Tennessee, and then obviously Texas and
Well, Ole Miss.
At Ole Miss?
We
Well,
play
that's
at
where
Ole
so
Miss.
where the 1-3 comes in. Though my thoughts was maybe Tennessee,
I think by that point, like
not Florida though.
obviously this is preseason. I think, you asked me after the Mississippi State week what I think. It may be a different answer because who knows? We'll see what Ole Miss does. We'll see what Tennessee does. You never know. But I don't know. I just see, like, obviously, like I said, ceiling's 4-0. And I think the toughest game on there is obviously Texas. And then I think from toughest to easiest, it goes Ole Miss, Tennessee, Florida. We're going to beat Florida. I don't really that hasn't been an issue in the past few years. Florida's not going to do well this year.
At home against Tennessee should be fine.
At home against Tennessee should be fine. We did it when they were the number 1 team, and I think we can do it again. I think we're kind of built similarly, but we have just some slight advantages on them. Ole Miss, that's going to be a tough one, but I think that might just end up being a game of what wins, like the speed and the quickness or the brute strength of what Georgia is, and I think that'll be kind of a toss-up there.
Agreed.
Is the Auburn game in Athens or Auburn?
It's in Athens.
Okay, then never mind.
Okay, real quick. We kind of got a quick run out of time a little bit, but I'm just going to go through the Texas schedule before we wrap up the SEC. This is the weakest SEC schedule I've ever seen. We might lose one game.
Really?
And it might be to Georgia. Like, literally. Like, if it's Georgia and Oklahoma are going to be our 2 hardest games. We have CSU at Michigan. Sorry, Christian. CSU, we're going to wax the fucking floor with them. Michigan, get out with the old, in with the new. UTSA, why are they even here? UL Monroe, bye. Mississippi State, good night. Oklahoma, fuck you. Georgia, good game. That's going to be a good one. At Vandy, why? Versus Florida, why? At Arkansas, that game might be a little challenging. Versus Kentucky, could be challenging if it was in Kentucky. And then at Texas A&M.
It's going to be tricky.
A&M game.
I think you win against Texas A&M,
but that's going to be a tough.
It's going to be a tough fight because Kyle Field is insane.
Tough.
Yeah,
That is a really.
It's terrible.
You avoided a lot of the teams that you don't want to play.
Yeah,
all of them.
Yeah, Tennessee, Bama. We did play Bama last year though, so I mean that was our test.
But
so.
I mean, we'll see Oklahoma,
and we do play Oklahoma on October 12th too. Yeah. So
I mean, like that's the thing. It's just like that's what's so fun about this point in the year is that we can look at it like this, and it's like we don't really know what all's going to happen really. Because of the Texas-Oklahoma game, who knows? By that point, it could be a top 10 Oklahoma team against a top 5 Texas team. And when you're playing in the Red River rivalry, I didn't want to throw some W's in there. You never know what can happen. We saw it last year. You never know what can happen. But, yeah, I think Georgia's going to be a tough game. I see about 3-4 games on here that are going to be tough. I wouldn't say losses, but tough.
Yeah. But Texas should be able to beat them. That's what I'm thinking as a fan, like you said, as a Georgia fan as well. We do play Oklahoma on October 12th. Mm-hmm. Real quick, we're going to talk about October 12th. We're going to talk about the whole week, actually. But the week of October 12th is maybe going to be the best week of college football, maybe ever, on paper, as of right now. This was a big topic on Twitter. I want to hear your thoughts on a little off topic. If someone's like wedding was on a college football, like you don't schedule a wedding on college football, like you schedule it in spring or
that's the first thing. But
yes,
yeah.
What relationship would it have to be for you to miss watching this college football weekend to go to a wedding? This was like the question on Twitter this week.
It would have to be a very, very close friend.
That's nice. I was gonna say immediate family member.
Yeah.
Well, here's the thing. Like I know, like I'm taking kind of the easy route because I'm saying what I think most people would do.
Yeah.
Is they would go to the wedding. Like it's not like because you just put your phone on, you would watch the games that you want to watch. But like it is tough to like have to like take the day off to go to a wedding when this many great games are going on. But I don't know. It would have to be someone like really close. Like if it was just some friend like that. Like you guys, like if it was your wedding,
we also none of us would make our wedding those days.
And here's the thing:
we have better morals.
If we did make our weddings that day, I know that there would be TVs playing.
Everywhere.
It would be NFL Red Zone.
It would be the beginning and end of a marriage that night. So
not even that; all the games would be shown.
But also, if you're a football fan, like I know it's kind of like taking it to a little bit of an extreme, but if you're a football fan and you're not getting married and getting engaged in the summer and then getting wed the next summer or the spring, what are you doing?
Yeah.
Like that's on you at that point.
Yeah.
Like
because you're already establishing for the rest of your marriage this opportunity for your wife to overtake football. You want to make sure that's clear from the beginning that this is a priority. And then, spring and summertime, that's when I'll show up.
And my biggest thing is, why are you getting married when it's cold outside anyway?
Yeah,
Exactly.
There's
Spring and
warm
summer.
places in the winter.
warm,
I was gonna say-
and the only thing that's going on is baseball, which is fine. We can get married.
we can miss a World Series game, but we cannot miss.
Well, no, the World Series is in October anyway. It's starting to get
Exactly.
cold around there anyway.
Yeah. Well, I'm
And
saying.
football's on at the same time.
Yeah.
So yeah, now you're
Just not this time of
Well,
year.
why-
Is
okay,
what we're getting at.
So
Yeah.
What about Friday weddings? Are Friday weddings acceptable?
Yes.
I think that
that's tough.
the only game that would be on like the Friday this year would be Utah at Arizona State. That would be like
Can't
I
make
missed
it.
that for a wedding. I don't know. That's fine.
that could be on like the phone, you know.
But why are you having
Yeah.
a wedding on Friday?
I think
I work.
I think Friday weddings. I think Friday.
So does 90% of the world.
Hold on. We've been talking about changing traditions as we talk about college football, but I've been talking about this for years with Thanksgiving, trying new foods, whatnot. I think weddings should be a Friday thing.
I think we should go back to the.
You leave on Thursday night, or you leave on Thursday, whatever. What true American doesn't like missing work
I mean, yeah.
to go to a wedding
True.
on a Friday? And then guess what? You have Saturday all day to recover from your hangover, watch sports, whatever. You can get on the flight late at night, and then you get back Sunday. Perfect time to get rested up, ready for work on Monday.
Flight.
Some people have to fly to weddings, destination weddings.
Crazy. I ain't doing.
Hey, Friday
Have a
weddings. Friday
have a
weddings.
destination wedding.
Friday
I'm
weddings should be the move. That's all I'm saying.
I think we should go back to the old
Shouldn't
days.
be a crazy thing.
And we should just get married on.
We should never. We
Wednesday.
should never go back to the old days.
Wednesday.
Wedded.
We
What do you
should-
mean by that?
Yeah, we should never go back to the old days, Kaden.
You know what I meant by that.
I don't know what you meant.
Well, figure it out.
All right, back on topic. We'll start off that week, like I mentioned, Friday, October 11th, Utah at Arizona State. Not the worst game. It is at 8:30 p.m. on ESPN Mountain Time. Great, we kind of wanted the Pac-12 after dark. We kind of got it.
Yeah.
Utah at Arizona State at 8:30. I think that kind of gives you the
Those
feel.
Sun Devils.
Okay, yeah, it goes on. I don't know about all that. That's gonna happen, but all right, get ready to hold your fucking pants. Okay.
Got him.
Saturday, October 12th, and all these times are TBD right now. But I'm just gonna read you every single matchup, not every single one, but the ones it goes to like the 25 ranked teams. This is big for you. Mississippi State at Georgia to start off. Just your alum versus your favorite team. Number 2 Ohio State versus number 3 Oregon.
Game of the year.
Might be the game of the year. Number 6 Ole Miss at number 13 LSU.
I think LSU walks away with the win.
At Penn State,
Is that game? Oh, it's TBD.
Yeah, all of them are
Okay,
TBD.
is that
right
a
now.
night game in Baton Rouge?
All of them are TBD on Saturday right now. Number 8 Penn State at number 23 USC. First time they'll meet up in the Big Ten.
That's a good one.
Number 11 Missouri at UMass. Who cares? It's still ranked. Number 14 Clemson at Wake Forest. Okay, whatever. Florida at Tennessee, rivalry game. Florida at number 15 Tennessee, rivalry game. I'm guessing that one might get one of the night games, one of the primetime slots.
Yeah.
Number 18 Kansas State in Folsom Field against Colorado. Number 21 Arizona at BYU.
Let's go Cougars.
And then Syracuse at NC State and Washington at Iowa.
What a day.
That day is going to be one of the best
don't
days.
forget about Marshall and Georgia Southern.
Oh, jeez. How could I forget about that? No, honestly. And then, okay, those are all TBD. Sorry, there's more. Number 4 Texas at number 16 Oklahoma.
That's
Red
a
River
good
rivalry.
day.
South Carolina at Alabama rivalry. Like, I don't know when they're going to schedule all of these. Air Force at New Mexico. Not the craziest names. Rivalry.
Mm-hmm.
Like, there's some of these games I'm looking at. Stanford at Notre Dame. Not a rivalry, but it's 2 of the biggest college football schools ever. North Texas. No, I'm just kidding. I'm just trying to find names on here. But I feel like there's a couple of even like more rivalries too. Miami of Ohio at Eastern Michigan. I'm just from living in Ohio. I know that's a big day. Ball State at Kent State. Huge for, the Midwest and the terrible place of Ohio. But like these matchups all over the board are absolutely insane. And name your favorite one. Maybe give me a top 2. Give me your top 2.
My top 2. Okay, so now that I have 2, I was gonna stray away from this one just because I wanted to kind of talk about a different one, kind of. My top 1 is obviously Ohio State, Oregon. I think that's gonna be a really
All right,
interesting
well,
game.
let's take Ohio State, Oregon for all of us out.
Yeah, I was going to say
Gotcha.
that's
Perfect.
definitely the top.
And then the second and third favorites.
All right. Okay, I think I'm gonna go with Ole Miss at LSU is probably the one I'm thinking of right now. I think that could be a very, very interesting game. Like Hunter said, if it's nighttime there, I think it could get very, very interesting, and I think LSU could maybe pull a little bit of an upset.
It would also be huge for the SEC rankings.
Mm-hmm. I do love the Texas-Oklahoma matchup, but I think that's another one for me that kind of goes unsaid just because it's a rivalry and it's a huge game. But I think the next one's going to be South Carolina, Alabama.
Bingo.
I think for me, I think South Carolina's kind of on the come up currently. I think their coach is kind of starting to turn that program around. They got some absolute studs on that team. I think we could see, by week 7, which is when this would be, Alabama could be out of the top 10, like very easily could be there at that point because they will have played Georgia, I believe. Mm-hmm. So, this could be a chance for South Carolina to kind of break the mold and make their way up in the rankings. And I really think that South Carolina could really give them a run for their money. I think it's going to be an electric game. So I think I'm going to go with those two SEC games that I think are going to have pretty big implications depending on where they are in their seasons at the time.
Agreed. You guys, second and third favorite matchup of the week?
We're going to stick with the Colorado train. I think that Colorado-Kansas State game is hopefully by that point in time, they're still like in the hunt, having a good season, and I think that game is going to mean a lot to CU. Mm-hmm. So I'm staying there. That's very much contingent on how well their season's going, because if they're just having a shit season, then that game doesn't matter.
Yeah.
But if they're having a good season, then that game, I think there's a lot riding on that.
One more?
I think besides that, I don't know, Florida, Tennessee. It's always a good game.
Love that game.
Always a good game.
I think that's another game that the severity of it will rely on how good the teams have been playing.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yep. Love that pick. Hunter?
I mean, the BYU goes without saying. I would say definitely Ole Miss, LSU, especially if it's Saturday night, Tiger Stadium night, playing a ranked team. It's always going to be a good game there. I don't want to steal yours, but Texas, Oklahoma, I'm very excited for as well. Red River rivalry. Got to make sure there's no W's in there. It's always fun to watch. Yeah, those would probably be my favorites.
Okay.
Or most anticipated, I should say.
I wasn't even going to say Texas and Oklahoma because
we're
going to run them this year. I'm confident in that. I love 2 of your picks, though. You guys took 2 of my picks. South Carolina, Alabama is going to be one of my favorite games, and then Florida and Tennessee. I'm going to love both of those. Obviously, like we talked about, Ohio State, Oregon, goner. Yeah, I mean, those were my 2 favorites. The South Carolina, Alabama one. That one kind of really excited me. And then Florida, Tennessee. We watched the Florida, Tennessee game last year at View House. That was View House. And then, Kansas State.
Is that the game where he threw his shoe? Or am I thinking?
Yes. Yep. And they started squaring up.
So foggy.
No, that wasn't. The shoe throw was like a couple of years ago. This was the one where at the end of the game they started fighting.
Was that LSU or was that Florida?
What was the game last year?
That was LSU.
It was super foggy, and someone threw a shoe. And
I think that was a Florida versus LSU game from I want to say 2018.
Is that that long ago?
Yeah. Because
what am I thinking? Was there a foggy SEC game last year?
I'm not sure, but all I know is that on Georgia Twitter, it is very big that ever since he threw that shoe, they have been ass.
Yeah.
But so I mean, huge day for college football. That is going to be very exciting. Hopefully nobody from my work is listening to this, but I'm going to take that day off for sure. And we're going to watch from sunrise to sundown. I don't know where college game day is going to be that week. I would guess probably Eugene if we were to pick it right now.
Yeah, no, 100%.
Question.
If we were to pick it right now, probably Eugene.
Unless
but
both of those teams take the fattest shit ever. And are somehow out of the top.
I could
10.
also see it be in the Red River though, no W's. So
that's gonna say.
Yeah, but I feel like Big Noon
depends on how the game part of the season goes.
I know because that's Big 12 now. Yeah, so I don't know.
It's gonna be interesting. I just want to see Pat McAfee back in Texas. It'd mean a lot to me. So.
Him and his bolo tie.
Yeah, see him and Stephen A. switched outfits for a day. That was terrible.
That'll be weird. I just thought of that, and if we don't have time to talk about this, we don't have to. But all the TV networks are different now. Mm-hmm. SEC's not on CBS anymore. Very ABC. Sad. I think, but
it's going to be really
all
weird.
All of them being on different channels now.
It's the preseason for us too. We got to figure out what channels we have. We have a week to do this. We can figure out what channels, what everything's going to be on. So we're ready. We're prepared to go into our favorite sports bar if we're not at home and we say, hey, can you turn this to
ABC?
There we go. Or we turn it to
CBS.
Or got him. Yeah, no, I was kidding.
NBC
and Fox.
NBC. Give me the Notre Dame game. They're taking on Nowhere State. Can you turn it on, please?
Mexico State, baby.
Yeah, New Mexico.
I also got to say I do have
if we're going to talk about Notre Dame, hold on.
Okay,
cool. All right. We're going to take a break real quick, and then we will be back to talk about the college football playoff after the break. So, see you on the other side. All right, exciting news, guys. We have a new sponsor, Verb Energy Bars. Simple, natural energy and protein bars. They have flavors like carrot cake, chocolate chip cookie dough, French toast, cookies and cream, anything you could really think of. Brand new product. You guys should go check it out. Make sure you guys use our code, Rock Solid, all capitals, to get up to 30% off. Use Rock Solid, all capitals again. Get 30% off. You guys are going to enjoy it. You guys are going to love them. We all do. Go check them out. All right, welcome back to the quote-unquote segment part of the show. But today we're just going to break down the college football playoff quickly. We're running out of time real quick. But there's a new college football playoff we talked about at the beginning. It's now 12 teams instead of 4. Obviously, a lot of stuff to be excited for. What is your biggest excitement and biggest concern about the college football playoff? And if there's any interesting things you'd like to talk about.
Yeah, of course. I think my biggest excitement is seeing these teams that, haven't had their chance to really get in there recently.
Appalachian State, please.
The teams like that, the teams like Liberty, the teams, that are just on the edge but aren't powerhouse enough to get in. Now, as long as they win their championship, I think they can get in.
They have a chance, yes.
So I think because it's like the Power 4 or whatever, and then the group of 5, I think the best team who wins their championship out of that goes. So I think it's going to be really interesting to see these teams who would never have a shot kind of make it in. And for my worries, I was saying this before the break. I hate Notre Dame, and I hate everything that they stand for. I think that they are a weak program.
This guy hates Irish people.
That didn't say that. But here's the thing. They don't play anybody. I looked at their schedule the other night. I think they played 2 hard games, but it's because they don't go into a conference. If they went into a conference, they would be a between 20 and 25 ranked team, if ranked at all, every single year. But because of the fact that they don't play anybody, they might stay within the top 12 and crack into the playoffs. And then what we're going to see again, like we've seen every single time they've come into the playoffs, they're going to get their ass kicked by someone who actually played people, and that's all that's going to matter. So I hate the fact that a team like that can get in and that they're able to stay independent in football when really they should be in the Big Ten, because that's exactly where they are. Everyone else is around. It's like they're patty caking their way through the schedule every single year and expect people to be like, we should throw a lot of respect to Notre Dame. No, we shouldn't, because they got beat by Duke last year. Duke was all right, but they got beat by Duke. They aren't that great. They had a half-decent quarterback who won them a couple games, but they're going to find a way to squeak themselves into the playoffs. And I think there should be a rule where if you're an independent team, you shouldn't be able to go to the playoffs unless you are in the top 4.
Wow.
That's my concern.
We're gonna clip that for the Irish Catholic people. He doesn't like you guys. No, I'm just kidding. He did not say that, but no, I couldn't agree more. That's why I wanted to talk about Notre Dame in this part of the segment, because Notre Dame being in the college football playoff almost every year going forward is going to be a storyline. Like they're going to get in. They're going to lose 1 to 2 games a year, staying independent, and they did this for a reason. Mm-hmm. They did this for a reason. They know what they're doing, and I have nothing to say. I think that was a great spiel. So was that your only concern about the 12 teams? I hope so, because it was very powerful.
Yeah, no, that was it.
Okay.
Yeah, that's
what was your guys' favorite thing? Obviously, you kind of talked about it, Hunter, but you guys' favorite and maybe a concern about the college football playoff?
I mean, I think Jackson nailed it on the head. We're going to get to see some teams that we've never really seen in there before. It's going to be fun. Concerns, I really don't think I have any. I can't think of anything. I'm excited.
No concern that, like, I'm looking at like a projection right now that Texas could be playing like App State in the first round.
My only concern is that it'll be too fun.
I kind of get what you mean by that, like we'll want more than 12.
Yeah. I could
well,
see
they're
that
talking
too.
about 14 in 2026 already.
I think it's 16, right? Or something like that.
Yeah.
But I think it gives it almost like a March Madness-esque vibe. Like you said, we haven't seen these teams in the college football playoffs before, and if they just come out there and ball the fuck out for one game and beat Georgia, then
literally.
Then okay, like shit, that's insane.
Let's do this more.
Right? Yeah, exactly. I think it kind of makes it more fun, but I guess I don't think that makes it a worry. Like
It's a good worry.
Yeah, a good worry.
It's having good problem to have.
Yeah.
Obviously, yeah, like with the underdog story is probably what I'm most excited for. Other than that, though, I would say the 5, 6, 7, and 8 seeds getting a home playoff game. College football atmosphere already is, I think, the best anywhere of all sports. But then you throw in the fact that now it's a playoff game. Oh my gosh, that'd be so cool. That will be so cool because it's happening. So I'm so excited for that.
Nailed it.
As far as concerned, I don't know. I feel like kind of going along with that. I don't want to be picky, so I'm thankful that we have 12, but you could start to see situations, especially when you have people like Notre Dame getting in that shouldn't be. That issue with like, well, how are they analyzing strength of schedule? Maybe there's a 13 or a 14 or a 15th ranked team that should have been over a Notre Dame or something like that. So I guess we'll see. Maybe 16 would be better because at some point it gets to a point where it's like, okay, if you're not top 16, then you don't deserve it. What is that threshold of now you don't deserve it? I don't know if it's 12. 12 might still be a little small.
You can lose 4 or 5 games and be in the top 25. It's not.
So I think the really weird dynamic for us, again, it's the preseason for us too. Last year I was sitting on this couch watching the college football selection show, praying that Texas was going to make it in because of the whole Texas, Alabama, and who was the 5th team, Florida State, going undefeated in their conference. We're going to be no longer arguing who the 5th best team is or who the 4th, 5th, 3rd, whatever, 6th. We're going to be arguing who's the 13th, 12th, 14th. How weird and exciting is that going to be, though? We're going to have to be focused on, like, if App State or Coastal Carolina in Week 10 is going to be, that's going to be a huge game. I think that makes it more exciting. We're watching these group of 5 games that actually mean something. I think that is a huge advantage for college football, especially when you're going to be putting on primetime games. You're going to see App State on primetime. You're going to see a Liberty on primetime game. You're going to see a Coastal Carolina. A lot more teams you can even name. Hopefully Marshall. We got to get back there. But we are Marshall. Tulane. Like, there's so many teams that are going to get their chance to be on a big stage. I think that's the most exciting point. The only concern I have is with you. And you said it's a good problem to have. You're going to like it a little too much. I agree. Will we like it a little too much where it starts to become an issue? Where it starts to becoming, okay, we want to do 16 in 2 years. When does it stop? When do we stop and say, okay, we're stopping at 16, right? I don't want it to get to like 20. Like, as much as I love watching more and more football, at a certain point, it's a football season. We've got to think realistically. These are kids now, especially at our age. Like, they have to play all these games. I don't know. That's the only concern for me is if we have too much fun, there has to be a cap on, like, okay, I love watching football as much as the next, but it can't go to, like, 20.
I think it's 16.
I think
16 is like I would sweet spot.
See, like
16, but that eliminates buys.
Here's the thing.
Yeah, I do like the buy aspect.
Yeah, I do too.
Here's the thing. In my personal opinion, I think 12 is perfect.
I do too.
Because I think what it is like it's just right above that top 10. Which, like you said, at what point does it become everyone's getting in?
Yeah.
And like it's not really a challenge, but like now it's like you got to think of it. It's a 12-team playoff with a 15-team implication. Where I think from 13, 14, 15, you're looking at a bunch of teams that can work their way in. And the final 2-week stretch of the season are these 13 through. No one cares about Georgia. Georgia's going to make it in. Like, that's going to happen. Like unless, of course, we blow it. But I mean, like, Georgia, Texas, Ohio State,
half your players end up in jail. Sorry.
Literally. But, yeah, like Georgia, Texas, Oregon, Ohio State, they're going to make it in. Yeah. That's always been a thing, though, where it's like we knew 2 teams that are going to make it in. But now we get to worry about, like you said, like these 15th ranked teams or even like a 16th ranked team in the last 2 weeks makes a push, wins a very valuable game, finds himself in a spot where they can make it into the 12-team playoff. And I think that's why I love it so much, just because it's not just 12 teams. It's like a 15-team implication.
Yeah, and like you said, it's going to be really interesting to figure out how they look at strength of schedule going forward to like that. So... I mean, what an exciting college football preview we just had.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, whole episode focused on one thing. It starts this Saturday. This episode will be out before that. Week 0. I think there's like 4 games or something. It's football. It doesn't matter. You'll fucking watch it. So we'll be watching. Couldn't be more excited. Week 1, the following week. Next week, we're going to do our NFL preview. We'll also have some BMW championship notes. PGA is coming to Colorado this weekend. So we will give you guys some updates on that and hopefully a couple cool videos on the way along with that. NFL preview is going to be kind of the same thing. We're going to go through each conference, each division, hopefully make some predictions. Like, this is always the good time of year, the rookie of the year, offensive, defensive, MVP, all that. Coach of the year, Shane Steichen. He's going to win it this year. We'll get that on next episode. But Yeah, this was exciting. We did our first preview of like, a whole sport. So that will go along as we go and the sports continue. So couldn't be more excited for college football. Yeah, anything to say?
No, I'm excited to get into this part of the year because I think even just being in the room while we're talking about this, as well as what it probably feels like to watch
it's gotten you fired up.
It gets you fired up, and it's way more integral to talk about. Like everyone can feel the energy when we talk about football and stuff like that. And this is going to continue for a while. And like, it's not even one of the things where it's like it's only football, but it's like I like basketball. We all like basketball, but it doesn't get you fired up.
Yeah,
I don't think like football does when it comes to like we're right there.
Yeah,
for just having this many months. Every Saturday, every Sunday, Monday, Thursday, Fridays,
Christmas.
It's so beautiful.
Yeah, it's the best stretch of the year.
Starting Saturday, there will be a football game every weekend until about February 17th or something like that. And holy shit,
I got chills.
I'm so ready.
I just got chills too.
I'm fired up.
Alrighty, so yeah, we will see you guys next week. This episode will be out on Thursday, and then we'll see you guys next Thursday for the NFL preview. Other than that, yeah, you guys have a good week. Have a good week of watching football.
Yes.
And yeah, NFL preseason on as well. Tune into that. And yeah, we will see you guys next week. Go tell somebody you love them. You might just make their day. Peace.